that are being used at the elementary level as well. So, did you
Can you
want to
see it?
start? Yep, it's there. You found it.
Awesome. Perfect. So we will roll into managing big emotions. So just like Melissa talked about, in our 4K world right now, we use Tucker Turtle is what class kids are learning in 4K. And then when we move into kindergarten, transition a bit to zones of regulation. Um, I'd say they're both very good, similar topics. And so we're going to wanting to share about both of them.
Mm-hmm. All right. You want to start, sir, or do you
Sure.
want me to? Okay.
So really what we're thinking about as our kids grow, it takes time for them to develop positive early experiences that are invaluable to developing a brain that allows the unique essence of a child to shine. I kind of like that quote just because it's our kids are a work in progress, just like we are. We continue to grow and develop as well, and we're just passing that along to our kids. And I think it's so fun to watch them develop these skills and practice them as they get older. The other thing I want to start off with is really grounding us and thinking of where are our kids at and what do we expect from them. So this is just kind of a little overview of when we think of social emotional learning and where should our kids really be at, thinking of our 3 to 4, 4 to 5 year olds. They're really just learning how to start manage their impulses better. Really just starting to enjoy games with others and comparing themselves to others a little bit more, developing those friendships, and understanding that fairness. So when we expect them to do things, I just always want to make sure that we're expecting them at their developmental age. So some of our kids may be more advanced in their reading or language or motor skills, but that doesn't mean they're advanced in their social emotional learning. So just remembering where they come from, and this just means this is what we teach them and what their bodies and their minds are ready for.
All right. And repetition is absolutely the name of the game. We want to teach our kids these skills over and over and over. And one of the pieces we'll talk lots about is just co-regulation. And that means you're kind of, I guess, showing your child how to regulate and kind of sharing your energy with your child. And again, you can't do it too much. Like the over and over really does help it stick. So we'll start by just thinking a little bit about our brains and how our brains work. And that's kind of the basis for helping our kids to, I guess, think. And the big piece with emotional regulation is that um, your child's brain is not going to work when they have big emotions. And so if you think about the brain and you look at like that frontal area on the image on your left, that's the prefrontal cortex. That's the thinking part of the brain, and that's where reasoning happens, where they process stuff, where they're learning new ideas and new skills. But when big emotions enter into the brain, if you look at where that little red dot is, that's our amygdala. And that is the process center for big emotions. And when the emotions enter the brain, there's just flooding that happens. The messaging from the amygdala floods out so many messages. And basically, it cuts off access to the prefrontal cortex. So, I guess in simplified terms, it just basically disallows the brain to be able to think and rationalize and process information. So when we think about our kids and when they have emotions, when they're upset or when they're angry, they're not able to think, to reason, to process really anything until they're able to calm those emotions down and to calm their body. And so that's where regulation is really a key piece to allowing our kids to, I guess, re-access the learning part of their brains. All right. So I think there's a little video that kind of explains this, how this works and how this happens. And we do need our amygdala, and they'll talk about that in the video as well, because we want that emotion center to flood out when we're in danger or when there's something really big happening that we don't want to stop and have to analyze things. We want to just be able to react or respond. But oftentimes, when we have those big emotions, our brain can sometimes be tricked. And then those big emotions again flood out, and the messaging center is unable to access the prefrontal cortex. So it's either this slide or the next slide, Sarah, that has the video on it. It might be the next
This
slide.
one,
Yep, here
yeah.
it is. Yep. Okay.
Okay,
So
and
this
we'll,
is just a,
I
go
was gonna
ahead.
say, I think Alyssa joined us. Welcome. Um, we're just gonna keep rolling, but if you have questions or anything, just throw them out in the chat, or anyone can interrupt as well at any point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, ready?
Yeah, go for it.
The more you understand how your brain works and how thoughts and emotions interact, the more control you can have over your thoughts and emotions. It's your brain. It's time for you to start controlling your own thoughts and emotions. So let's talk about how thoughts and feelings interact. We're going to break it down using a visual, the hand model. We're going to use our hand for this. Your thumb, folding it in, is the middle of your brain, your amygdala. Your fingertips, folding it around, is your prefrontal cortex, the front of your brain. We'll come back to this in a second. Our amygdala is really important in serious situations. For example, if you see a fire, it alerts you into action. It cuts off access to your prefrontal cortex where you think and reason, which is great. You don't need to calculate just how long it will take for the house to burn down. You just need to move. Back to your hand. Your amygdala in the center, the fingers curled around, flips the prefrontal cortex lid. Flip the lid. Try it with me. Put your thumb in the middle, hold your fingertips, and force your fingertips over with your thumb, the amygdala. This could save your life in the fire situation. So we need our amygdala, but here's the problem. Your amygdala makes mountains out of molehills. So when there isn't a fire, and just say a pop quiz, your amygdala may react the same and flip your lid when there's no need to. When your lid is flipped, that's when your thoughts and emotions become muddled. When this happens, it means your thoughts are driven by your amygdala and they are often distorted. This can fuel your worry or anxiety. So your lid is still flipped and you need your prefrontal cortex to perform well on that pop quiz. So you have to find a way to get the prefrontal cortex to come down so you can think and reason. Bringing your lid down is tough for all of us. We'll dive further into that next.
And bringing your lid down really is the beginning pieces to how to regulate emotions, or how to get your body to a more calm state, or to a state where it's more expected to be.
Oh, oops. Of course.
Did you lose it?
Nope, it's still there.
Okay.
There we go. I'm just gonna go
Alright.
to the next one. Oops. Not what I meant to do. Thanks for your patience.
All right. So like I said, learning to manage emotions, or to bring your lid back down, or to settle yourself, is self-regulation. And truly it is the most important piece to being able to think, to being able to reason. It also helps with relationships. It helps you to be more predictable. It also helps, just with better communication in general, because again, that thinking part of the brain can be utilized.
Oops. Sorry.
All right, so how do we teach this? First and foremost, we kind of talked a little about this in the beginning, is by taking good care of ourselves and modeling to our kiddos how to manage our own emotions. Our kids are like little sponges, and they definitely learn by watching us and the things that we do. So when we're stressed out, or when we're angry, or when we're upset, they watch to see how we respond and how we react. And often, like, that's kind of their first go-to. I know raising my kids when they were little, I often would cringe because I would hear sometimes my kids would go, oh, and I would think, oh no, that's me. Um, that's them modeling my coping strategy, although it was also a way of getting breath into my body. So, but they do learn first and foremost by the things that they see us doing. Practice again, showing how you manage stress and anger. Also, it's okay for you to make mistakes, and to talk through those mistakes out loud. Like, talk about, oh man, I tipped over some milk. Oh, well, I guess I'll clean it up and it's going to be okay. So, watching to see how you don't respond hugely to certain situations. And also watching too, when you do get really angry or you are really upset, watching how you take that time out, or how you handle your body, handle your emotions. Like, I'm so mad right now, I can't talk to anyone, I need some space. And taking that time to put yourself on timeout, or to take your emotion. And sometimes when I would get really mad, I'd say, I'm really mad right now, I just need a little time, and I would go sweep my garage, or I would go dust my house, or I would go fold laundry, something to help work out some of my energy. And then I might come back around and in front of my kids say, okay, now that I'm calm again, we can talk, or we can figure this out. So all of that modeling really, really is the first and foremost teacher, and that's your kids learn the most by what they see you do.
I think sometimes I would do it too when we're watching movies or stories and talking about, oh, he must have been really frustrated when that happened, but look what he did, and kind of talking through it together and just taking it out of context of even when we see things naturally happen. Those are kind of those natural learning moments of, oh, I wonder what he's feeling right now. And you can just leave it as simple as that to practice even just emotions, what people are saying. Why do you think that? What shows you that he's upset? Or what would you do in that situation, kind of things.
Mhm, mhm.
So transitioning into the first way that we kind of start to teach emotional regulation, um, can you guys see the whole thing, or like I have the speaker in the corner?
Yep, we can see it all.
Okay, so Tucker Turtle is what we use, and that NCPMI is the National Center for Pyramid Model Innovation. That's where I kind of copied a few of the resources from on here, and I can send you those if you want to put your information in the chat, and I can email you those as well. That website is called challengingbehaviors.org. And when you log in, if you go to resources, and you can pick out family and pick out like social emotional learning, that will really get you to the pieces that I'm bringing up today. So Tucker Turtle is a strategy we use in 4K, and really we're wanting to stop and think is what this strategy is. So Tucker recognizes he's having a strong feeling, stops his body, tucks himself inside his shell to take 3 deep breaths, and then comes up with a calm solution of what he should do. So the other part of this kind of stop and think mentality is, how do we move forward with the solution? So the Tucker Turtle book, Tucker Takes Time to Think, Tuck and Think, that is online at the website. And then there's also a family one as well. But these are the solution cards that 4K students are practicing throughout the school year, and they should be, when you walk in the room, you should be able to see them typically. And they're practicing solutions like get a teacher, asking nicely, sharing, trading, wait and take turns, get a timer. I think it's amazing when I walk in these 4K rooms and these kids go and grab one of those little sand timers and be like, hey, can I have a turn in 5 minutes? And they go and they flip over the timer, and sure enough, in 5 minutes, they're ready to go and someone else gets to turn. Okay, that's not how it goes every time and with every student. But for the most part, I mean, that's practicing, and kids are seeing other kids do it, and that's sometimes more impactful than seeing adults do it. So I think that is such a cool thing that a lot of our classrooms are doing right now. This is another book that's on that website. And it teaches us to be problem solvers at home. And it's really just scripted, talking about kids and what we do, and kind of stopping to think and coming up with our own solutions. This is another resource that was listed, and it just talks about ways to start talking through solution kits, and instructions on how to use some of the pieces of solution cards that they have, the at-home option as well. The other thing that we try to teach early on, which we have now in all of our 4K and going into elementary, calming corners, and we're teaching that for all kids. You know, I think we forget sometimes as adults that we calm and we do things that we need to step away from when things get overwhelming. You know, we may need to go for a walk, we step out, we take a drink, we go get some gum. We just naturally do those things and they're healthy. That's good. That's what we want our kids to learn and practice. So here are some things that we can help teach kids to do. Taking deep breaths. There's lots of different breathing videos and visuals out there that we use for kids. Counting to 4. There's also another good one I didn't post on here, but one that practices all the senses. So what do you see? I think it's 5 things you see, 4 things that you hear, right? And you can correct me too,
Or
Melissa.
touch. I think it might be touch even.
Touch.
Yeah.
And then you just go down and it's just practicing all the senses and kind of grounding yourself before you're moving forward. Listening to music is a good one, reading a book. Everyone's different. So it's helping your child, like, what calms you. And the best way to practice this too is to really do it when you're calm. You're not going to go, let's go try taking breaths in the middle of a tantrum when he's laying on the floor throwing something. We're practicing, let's go take some breaths. Which one do you like better, the rainbow one, or do you like the figure 8? And those kind of just talking it through. So then when it's time and you need it, you've practiced it and it's easier to access. You're not having to think about it as much. The thing with Calm Kits, that's where we look at a lot of fidgets. And sometimes kids just need that kind of distraction. It can be a visual distraction, it can be a tactile distraction, a smell, a sound. Sometimes that's just what we need to change our mind and to help get unstuck. So, does anyone have any questions about Tucker Turtle or things you think about or want to talk through?
And I'll just reiterate by saying, I mean, the two big pieces to it are getting their body calm enough so they can think again. And then, and a good question, like one of my go-to questions is, what does your body need right now? And as Sarah said, maybe like talking through some of the strategies or ideas of ways, and she showed some, some good lists and resources that you could use. So having those kind of a list made or at least a discussion about some ideas. And then once they're calm, what can we do or how can we solve this problem? And so then teaching your kids to be good problem solvers, which is also a huge, awesome skill set that they can take with them as they're growing up as well.
The other piece with that I didn't mention yet was the idea of co-regulation. As kids are developing their skills to be able to regulate themselves, they depend on us to help them do that. And that's healthy. That's what we do. Just like babies, we sway with them. Sometimes when a child is really upset, we can sit next to them and control our breathing, and naturally they just come down and control it with as well, and it becomes this kind of mirror. So when kids aren't able to have that skill yet, we teach it to them by doing it with them. Oh, you look really upset right now. Would you like to take deep breaths or would you like to go for a walk? And you kind of can help guide by giving choices until they start to seek out those options on their own or have out their own ideas as well. Or when I get upset, sometimes I just need to go get a drink of water or stand up and do jumping jacks or whatever it might be. So it's okay to do that with them until they start to build the skill sets to do it on their own.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna switch over to zones of regulation, which is also used in early childhood. I know a lot of mental health counselors use zones of regulation, and all of our school counselors use them in teaching guidance classes once they go into kindergarten at DC Everest, and I know WASA uses it as well.
Mm-hmm. And I will say too that the teachers, this is kind of a basis for all of the classrooms as well. So the video that Sarah found and she's going to put out there is just kind of a nice summary of sort of how it works and kind of what we're going to talk about through the rest of the other slides in the presentation.
Do you ever have big feelings? Let's talk about how that is okay and what you can do next time to help yourself through that. Here are my zones of regulation. All of these colors show how we are feeling. Feelings are expected and respected. We just have to learn how to work through them in a way that is safe for others and yourself. Yelling and throwing are unexpected, but can happen when we are in the red zone. All we can do is learn how to work through those big feelings in a more expected and trusting way. Let's talk about green zone first. Green zone is when we are feeling calm and flexible. In this zone, we are ready to learn, problem solve, and able to work through those big feeling moments in an expected way. Sometimes something happens and we either feel sad or maybe frustrated. If we feel sad, we might be going into the blue zone. That is okay, but we have to use our strategies to get back into the green zone. In blue zone, our engines and brain are running a little slower. In this zone, we could feel sad, tired, bored, or even sick. If we feel any of these, here are some tools to help you get yourself back into the green zone. If you're bored or tired, try taking deep breaths to get oxygen to your brain and wake it up. Another way to wake it up would be to drink some water. If it is an unpreferred activity, maybe this is time just to practice persevering through those boring, slow, and unmotivating moments in life. There are a lot of them, and you're only stronger for getting through them. If something or someone made you feel sad, maybe try taking some deep breaths in a safe and calming space. Drink some water, find an activity you enjoy, and work through it with an adult. If someone has a toy you want, maybe try turn taking and set a timer for when it's your time next. If you feel sick, it might take a little bit to get back into the green zone, but take care of your brain and body with rest, sleep, and fluids. If you're finding yourself a little frustrated, amping up, or even super silly, you might be going into the yellow zone. Yellow zone usually happens when we are learning a new skill and it's frustrating, or maybe we didn't get enough sleep, so our brain becomes a little too tired or even too silly. We can start to become unsafe in this zone. There is a time and place for this zone, like when we are outside playing with friends or somewhere where there is a lot of fun energy. It can be unexpected at home when everyone is tired, or it can be unexpected in a quiet place. It can also mean our brain is getting a workout and it sends frustrated signals to our emotional side of the brain. It's okay. Take a deep breath, work at it for another 10 seconds or even a minute, and if it's still frustrating, then maybe take a break to come back in 20 minutes or so, or even the next day or week. It's okay. You got this. This is where mindfulness comes in. When we recognize that we are amping up to yellow zone, we can use our strategies and tools to bring ourselves back to green zone. Otherwise, the next level is red zone, and this is not where anyone wants to be. This is when people become unsafe and we might feel like we are out of control. It's still okay. We all get here. We have to learn that this feeling is okay and that it will pass. To help my body calm down, I will recognize what is happening within. My heart might be beating, I might be sweating, tension is all through my body. Maybe mean words in my brain are wanting to come out. This is the most important time to sit down, get grounded, say to yourself or your safety person, I feel in the red zone. I will ground myself by signaling my heart first to calm down. To do this, I will take a deep breath in and out. You might need to repeat that. Deep breath in and out. When you are calm in the green zone, I am sure someone would love to talk this out with you and problem solve. The more we are aware and identify our big feelings, the more we can become aware and identify how we can still have our behaviors be kind and safe. Good job growing your brain today. See you next episode where we learn about Superflex and the Unthinkables.
All right, so just kind of a cute summary. It's one that you probably could also like share with your kids if you kind of wanted to introduce a little bit. But like we mentioned, once your kids start elementary school, they will be learning about the zones for sure in their counseling classes, but also sometimes the teachers will kind of be talking about them. And again, it's kind of the basis for like beginning with our behaviors and with our choices. So as she mentioned, there are 4 zones. We're very clear to point out that no zone is a bad zone. It's just the feelings that your body have, and there's not a right or a wrong. There is an anticipated time every single day that you're going to probably be in for sure the bottom 3 zones. I also like to think of the zones kind of in terms of energy, and the kids really like the little signs that go along with. So the blue zone sign is the like the rest area zone. And as she kind of mentioned, it's our slow and our low energy zone. And we'll look a little more carefully at each of those individually, but the energy piece I think is really important to think about. Um, then we look at the green zone and we focus a lot around the green zone at school because that's our learning zone. Our energy is just right. We're able to focus, we're able to pay attention, our bodies are calm, we're not too distracted. Generally, we feel, pretty good or pretty okay in the green zone. And that's often the zone that we're aiming to get back to, especially while we're at school. So we'll focus there a lot. The yellow zone is where we have a little bit of faster energy. And again, you can have positive and negative emotions with that faster energy zone. So, like anxious or worried might fit in the yellow zone just as silly, or excited may also fit in the yellow zone as well. So, again, you can have positive and negative emotions in every zone. In the video, she talks about the red zone as being maybe a zone that's not as comfortable to be in, but it's not always negative, and I like to teach that to the kids too. It's just where our energy is really, really high and really fast. Um, and so we often think about that as like really angry or upset or frustrated. It's basically where you flipped your lid and that amygdala is just firing out all of those messages, and so you're unable to really think real clearly. A positive emotion in the red zone might be like elated. So I tell the kids, let's pretend someone shows up at your house and says, your family just won $1 million. Like your whole family would probably be like, ah, and screaming and feeling a little bit out of control. But it's not necessarily a negative emotion, it's more a really high positive emotion, but you still feel a little bit out of control and your energy is really racing fast because that's where your feelings lie. So again, not a right or a wrong for any of the feelings. It's just how do I manage my body? How can I take care of myself? This visual is the one that's actually up in all of the elementary classrooms. And the teachers kind of refer back to this. Helps the kids to kind of see again the feelings that are associated with each of the zones. And again, some positive and some negative in each of those zone areas. So again, just reiterating, it's okay for your body to be in any zone. You just want to learn how to get your body back to the expected zone. And often it is the green zone, but sometimes your expected zone could be another zone. And we talk about how even the blue zone, like every single night, it takes some time, it takes some energy, and it takes like settling your body in to get to the blue zone when you're going to sleep. And it's a skill that we all need to learn how to do. Like, how can I calm my body down enough so that I can relax and fall asleep? Just like the yellow zone might be an anticipated or expected zone to be in if you're going to, say, a sporting event, right? Or maybe a party or a place where you want to have a bit more energy, then yellow would be your expected zone space to be in. So again, regulation is just figuring out what is the expected space that my body should be in and how can I get my body there. So these are the visuals that we actually use in the elementary classes, just to kind of help teach it to the students. And again, just some nice visuals. Again, that green zone energy is just right. Brain is focused. You're happy. You're calm. And then helping kids to think about, well, what can I do to either get myself there or to keep myself there? So the little list on the right is just some ideas or some things to think about in terms of how can I keep myself in green or even get myself to green. And again, that's what regulation is getting yourself to that expected zone. Again, the blue zone is low energy. You might be sad, you might be bored, you might be sick, you might be tired. But again, brain is just working very slowly, not able to function at its highest level. Often when you're in the blue zone, rest is really what you need if you're sick or you're tired. And so thinking about what can I do, and she kind of gave some examples, like if you're tired or you're bored, you might do something to give your body energy, right? Going for a walk or taking some water or some deep breaths may kind of help. If you're sad, what are things that could bring you up if you're sad, and also what are some things that you could do for your body if you're sick? And a big part of this is teaching kids to tune into their body, to listen to their body, because usually our bodies know what we want and what we need, but often we discount that. So getting them to listen to their body and ask their body, like, what does your body need, really helps as well. Yellow zone again, energy is speeding up. And as energy is speeding up, it's nice to kind of help kids think about what's going on with their body. Like, what might you notice when your energy is speeding up? What does that feel like? For some, it's, like butterflies in my stomach, or my heart's starting to beat faster, or I feel like my legs just want to run, or I need to move. So noticing how their body is feeling, and then knowing that when that starts to happen, your brain starts to get kind of busy and it's harder to focus. The feelings there could be nervous, worried, confused, uncomfortable, could be silly, could be excited. But again, that engine running faster. So what can I do often has to do with releasing some of that energy. So that way they can relax again or get themselves back, especially if they're trying to regulate down to the green zone. And again, just some ideas of things that you could do with students. And then the red zone. And again, red zone is very, very fast energy. Sometimes, again, helping kids to sort of think about what's going on in my body. Like maybe my fists are clenched, or maybe I'm like biting down with my teeth. Maybe my feet feel like they want to pound, or your heart is beating really fast, or you feel really hot. Knowing that thoughts are moving fast. And again, it sort of feels like your engine could be running out of control. So I guess noting that you're probably not going to be thinking real clearly here. And when you're in this, best thing you can do to help your thinking brain is to calm your body back down. And then again, to think about some strategies or look at some things that, what can I do to help rid myself of energy or calm my body so that I can get back to that thinking brain. All right, so reinforcing this again, helping your child just to identify what is my body feeling like. And that is a big go-to question for me is, what does your body need right now? What does your body feel and what does your body need? So helping them to start noticing the feelings and then even just naming the feeling that goes with that sensation in their body. And then helping them to think about, like, what does my body need so I can be more calm? Or if they're in the blue zone, what does my body need so that I can have a little bit more energy, or I can take care of myself so that I can get well, right? So if you're sick, what does your body need right now? It needs to rest. Maybe it needs some water. Maybe it needs sleep. Any of those things.
And I'd say sometimes for our littles is we might just need to label that for them. So, oh, your body looks like it's pretty tired right now. When I'm tired, I use this, or I try to go get a drink. So helping label that for them again. Um, and helping label your body, like when you're trying to catch them before they get to the red zone is probably most helpful. But it looks like you're starting to get really worked up about that. What can I do to help you right now?
Mhm, mhm. So some of these slides are a little bit redundant, but just again, we threw in a bunch of different ones. And helping your kids again to identify like how their body might be feeling. So the body feelings are kind of important ones. We spend a little bit of time, well, I spent quite a bit of time, I should say, talking about breathing, because breathing in air is one of the best ways to regulate your body both up and down. And it's something we can utilize often. So having a few tools to help kids with that breathing, I think is kind of important. The 5 finger breathing one that you see on the bottom is, really just that. It's taking your hand and tracing up 5 big breaths. And I kind of talk to the kids about when they get to the top of their finger, one of the most important pieces to breathing is the holding. So you'd breathe in, hold, and breathe out. And that hold is really what forces the oxygen into um, our body parts that need it, because when our body is in that heightened state of emotion, we're kind of in that fight or flight mode, and a lot of our oxygen is going to our large muscle areas, or it's going into body parts other than our brain. And so that breath in and that hold forces that oxygen to get into the bloodstream, and it calms us, and then it sends it up into our brain so that we can do a better job of thinking. So these are just a few that we talk about. There's like they call it lazy 8 breathing, or it's kind of that infinity sign that you see on the right. And then I think I think it's the 6 sides of breathing that you see on the left. There's square breathing. I think you saw a little spiral breath in the video that we showed you a little bit earlier, but there's so many of these examples that you can look up and check online. And Sarah, do you have any favorites?
Yeah, a really good one to help littles practice breathing is blowing bubbles.
Mm.
Just because you're blowing it out and you're really getting that full breath to blow out. So kids can have fun practice breathing with bubbles, or I've seen like using a toilet paper roll and putting tissue paper at the end and blowing it out like a tube, or blowing it through a straw, just to see like the action of what that actually looks like. I think of our kids who I'd say anxiety is a little bit higher for some of our littles more than normal, and breathing helps anxiety. Like working through things and working on breath really helps our bodies regulate much better, because it's getting the blood flow going, it's getting our minds back working, rather than that anxiety of kind of the fear that it's perceiving. So it's a really important skill to learn early on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
The 6 sides of breathing.
we got them all going at once. We're gonna go through. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
zip through a little bit for yellow and red, because I think there's a couple um, things at the end
Yes,
here.
that we want to take a quick peek at. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes it's helpful to make a visual and just to do a body scan with your kids. So again, identifying the parts of their body where they may feel some of the energy or some of the emotion when they're in that heightened state. So we just put in here like the red and the yellow examples, but you could do this with any zone, or even with any feeling for that matter. Like when you feel angry, where do you feel that in your body? Maybe you get a headache, or maybe your heart's beating really hard, or the clenched fists, or the sweaty hands, or feet just feel like they really need to kick or move. I know my elementary kids, like when we're working a little more specifically in zones, they love doing these body scans, and you can do it per zone, you can do it by feeling, you can do it in so many different ways, and then help them identify when you have these sensations. That's the feeling that I'm feeling angry, or I'm feeling anxious, or whatever your feeling might be. So key questions, things you can ask your kids to get them tuning into this. Again, just how are you feeling? Where is your body feeling this? Like, where are you noticing it? And I love the third question, what does your body need right now? Like, that is my favorite question for kids. What does your body need right now to help them with like what's going to calm me or what's going to give me energy, whatever it is they need to be so they're in that anticipated zone. And then how can I help you? Other pieces to this also are helping kids to identify like how big their problem truly is and talking about like what's a little problem versus what's an emergency or a huge problem. Because sometimes our kids' reactions don't really match the size of the problem. And so sometimes just talking about that and oh, you just dropped something on the floor. It's okay. We don't have to cry or we don't have to throw a fit or oh, your teacher might not be able to call on you every time, and that's okay too. Like that's just a little problem versus something huge happens, someone's hurt or an emergency is going on, but sort of running through that gamut of what a tiny problem, a little problem, a medium problem, a gigantic problem, and then an emergency problem looks like. And then talk about what are some of the expected reactions or feelings that may happen. And yep, you might be mad with a tiny problem, but it can just be a little mad versus a huge blown up mad. So again, helping them to see, does the size of my problem match the size of my reaction?
And in their mind, they will probably say yes. Because at the moment, sometimes it may really feel like that too for them. Um, and that's okay. And if that's what they feel, then that's what they feel.